It's a very common tale.
Well, maybe for you, but I was in a band and we still have a hit record.
Yeah, you do. One-hit wonders.
This looked like a simple movie about a one-hit band, but behind nearly every scene is an incredible story. How did Tom Hanks secretly write songs for the film? Why did a future Oscar winner almost become part of the cast? And how did a box office disappointment turn into one of the most beloved cult classics of the 1990s? From hidden Easter eggs and surprising casting decisions to exclusive behind-the-scenes stories, interviews, and production secrets, this countdown reveals how one fictional band created one of Hollywood's most unforgettable movie legacies. 20. Jonathan Demme helped build an all-star production team. Tom Hanks may have been stepping into the director's chair for the very first time, but he's made one decision that immediately gave That Thing You Do a major advantage. After working together on Philadelphia, Hanks reached out to acclaimed director Jonathan Demme and asked him to join the project as a producer. Demme didn't simply agree to help. He brought along a remarkable group of experienced filmmakers whose resumes included some of Hollywood's biggest and most respected productions. Their presence gave Hanks something every first-time director hopes for: trusted experts who knew exactly how to bring a story to life. Among the talented crew were cinematographer Tak Fujimoto, editor Richard Chu, and producer Edward Saxon, all of whom had already built impressive careers on award-winning films. Their knowledge helped shape everything from the movie's warm visual style to its smooth pacing and nostalgic atmosphere. Instead of feeling like a risky first effort, the production carried the confidence and polish of a filmmaker who had been directing for years. Jonathan Demme even stepped in front of the camera for a small cameo, making his contribution both behind and in front of the scenes. His guidance gave Hanks the freedom to focus on performances while relying on a world-class team to support every creative decision. Looking back, it's easy to see why the film still feels so timeless. It wasn't just Tom Hanks's passion that made it work. It was the extraordinary collection of filmmaking talent quietly working together behind the cameras. Tom Hanks had an incredible team behind him, but the movie itself almost never existed. The next fact shows just how far Tom Hanks was willing to push himself. 19. Tom Hanks wrote the script during the Forrest Gump press tour. While promoting the massive success of Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks kind of used up his limited free time to put together a very different storyline. Hotel rooms turned into sort of temporary offices, airplane rides became brainstorming sessions, and even those small breaks between interviews were used for developing scenes and smoothing out the dialogue a bit. The timing felt kinda odd because during award season, Hanks was basically surrounded by constant attention. Reporters would keep asking about box office results, awards, and his newest performances. And writing about a fictional 1960s band gave him this creative escape from Hollywood's never-ending spotlight, really. Those scattered writing moments slowly turned into the screenplay for That Thing You Do. The early drafts were a little rough, but Hanks stayed at it, revising again and again until it started clicking and taking shape. By the end of the press tour, he had put together the groundwork for his first feature film as a director. What started between flights and in between interviews ended up becoming one of his most personal projects. 18. Tom Everett Scott almost lost the lead role. Landing the lead role in That Thing You Do almost slipped through Tom Everett Scott's fingers for one surprising reason. During the casting process, Tom Hanks hesitated because he believed Scott looked too much like a younger version of himself. Hanks worried that audiences might focus on the resemblance instead of becoming invested in the character of Guy Patterson. For a first-time director trying to tell an original story, even a small distraction felt like a risk. Fortunately for Scott, someone close to Hanks saw things differently. After watching the audition, Rita Wilson encouraged her husband to take another look. She believed Scott's performance was far stronger than his resemblance to Hanks and insisted that he was the right choice for the part. Her opinion prompted Hanks to revisit the audition with fresh eyes, instead of relying on his first impression. When Scott explained how much he related to Guy Patterson, his honesty stood out immediately. Like his character, he was chasing a dream and hoping for a breakthrough in the entertainment industry. That genuine connection gave the performance a natural charm that couldn't be manufactured. Hanks eventually agreed that Scott captured exactly what the role needed and personally called him to offer the part. That phone call launched Scott's career and helped create one of the movie's most memorable performances. 17. 3 members of Tom Hanks's family appear in the film. That Thing You Do became a true family project for Tom Hanks. While directing the film, he quietly gave 3 family members small roles that many viewers missed. His son, Colin Hanks, made his feature film debut as an NBC page during the Hollywood television showcase scene. Although his role was brief, it marked the beginning of a successful acting career. Fans watching the extended edition can even see more of his performance. Hanks's daughter, Elizabeth Hanks, also appears as the bored girl in the dress shop. Meanwhile, his wife, Rita Wilson, has a memorable cameo as Marguerite, the lively cocktail waitress at the Blue Spot Club, where Guy Patterson meets Del Paxton. These appearances never distract from the story, but they add a fun, hidden detail that many fans only discover after watching the film more than once. 16. Tom Hanks secretly wrote songs for the movie. Most fans know Tom Hanks as an actor, director, and producer, but he also helped create the music for That Thing You Do. Behind the scenes, Hanks quietly wrote original material without heavily promoting his involvement. One of his songs, Loving You Lots and Lots, was designed to sound like the cheerful, easy-listening music heard on American radio during the early 1960s. Hanks studied the era's polished vocal groups and light orchestral arrangements to make the fictional world feel more authentic. He also wrote Guy Patterson's energetic drum solo, adding another personal detail to the movie's soundtrack. At the time, Hanks had recently won consecutive Academy Awards, so few viewers expected him to contribute musically as well. His work showed how deeply involved he was in the production and proved that his creativity extended far beyond acting and directing. 15. Over 300 songs competed for the title theme. Finding the perfect song for That Thing You Do was honestly one of the movie's most annoying creative hurdles, because the whole story basically revolved around a fictional band where their single had to feel like a real 1964 smash. The filmmakers couldn't just grab any ordinary tune and call it done. They got over 300 songs submitted by talented writers. And yeah, everyone really thought theirs might turn into that unforgettable, kind of electric anthem right in the middle of the film. Each entry tried to squeeze in the thrill and momentum of the British invasion, but only one somehow rose above the rest. Among the submissions, there was a demo from songwriter Adam Schlesinger. He took cues from the Beatles, like those catchy rhythms and that bright, upbeat feel, and somehow turned it into a song that grabbed attention immediately. Producers plus cast members saw it right away, and they knew it had that particular magic they were looking for. It sounded authentic enough to sit comfortably in the 1960s, but it still stayed fresh and easy to remember for modern viewers. In the end, the call was, one of the smartest decisions made during production. The title track didn't only work inside the movie, it also became a real hit outside of it. Then its popularity snowballed, earning nominations for both the Academy Award and the Golden Globe for Best Original Song, which basically locked it in as one of cinema's most convincing fictional pop songs. 14. The cast trained like a real band for 6 weeks. Watching the Wonders perform on screen, it's easy to believe the actors had been playing together for years. In reality, most of the cast started with very little musical experience. Tom Everett Scott had never played the drums before, while Jonathan Shaich had no background with the guitar. Only Steve Zahn and Ethan Embry had a small amount of experience from their younger years. That meant nearly everyone had to begin from scratch before filming could even start. To make the band look believable, the actors went through an intensive 6-week training program. They practiced for around 5 hours every day, learning proper hand movements, stage timing, and how real musicians interacted during rehearsals and live performances. Although the songs were pre-recorded by professional musicians, every movement had to match the music perfectly. There was little room for mistakes once the cameras started rolling. The dedication paid off in remarkable fashion. By the end of training, the cast looked so convincing that many extras and crew members believed they were actually performing live on set. Their chemistry as a band felt completely natural, helping audiences believe the Wonders were a genuine group rather than actors pretending to play instruments. That commitment became one of the biggest reasons the film still feels authentic decades later. 13. Every song in the film was written specifically for it. Lots of films that are set in the 1960s kinda lean on famous tunes from that time to summon nostalgia, but That Thing You Do does things in a weirdly different way. Instead of loading the soundtrack with the usual Beatles-era classics, Tom Hanks pretty much said, "Nah, every single song is written just for the movie." I guess part of it was just logistics. If they'd licensed popular hits, that would have eaten up a huge chunk of the budget. Plus, it also felt smarter. More than that, though, Hanks wanted viewers to find new music that feels real, not just constantly catching the same old familiar melodies like a reflex. So the filmmakers got this wide, almost unrestrained creative freedom. Every performance, from the bright title track to the little bits of background music you hear in radios and on television, was composed specifically to match the plot and the people in it. The songs were built so they sound like they actually slipped out of 1964, but also still make sense for audiences decades later. Somehow it all works, because the make-believe music world inside the film feels more believable than it has any right to. And yeah, the risk paid off way past what anyone expected. The soundtrack didn't just die after the credits. It kept going. It had momentum. Fans bought the album, radio stations spun the tracks, and the title track became a real hit in its own right. Not many movies have managed to create a totally original soundtrack that audiences loved so hard, like it really came from the era it was praising. 12. Character names hide Apollo and Beatles references. At first glance, the character names in That Thing You Do seem completely ordinary. However, Tom Hanks quietly filled the script with hidden references to two of his biggest passions, the Apollo space program and the Beatles. These subtle details are easy to miss, but they add another layer of fun for viewers who enjoy spotting clever Easter eggs hidden throughout the movie. Several characters were named after real Apollo astronauts. Jimmy Mattingly pays tribute to Ken Mattingly, the astronaut removed from the Apollo 13 mission before launch. Lenny Hayes honors Fred Hayes, one of the mission's most famous crew members. During the Hollywood television showcase sequence, astronaut Gus Grissom also appears as a television personality, continuing the film's quiet celebration of America's early space program. Music fans received a hidden reference as well. Tom Hanks named his own character Mr. White, after Andy White, the drummer who briefly played with the Beatles before Ringo Starr became firmly established with the band. These references weren't included to advance the story. Instead, they reflected Hanks's genuine interests and rewarded observant viewers. Even decades later, fans continue discovering small details that reveal just how thoughtfully the movie was put together. 11. Bryan Cranston's tiny cameo led to future collaborations. Long before Bryan Cranston became one of television's biggest stars, he made this quick little appearance in That Thing You Do, and a lot of viewers just kinda passed right over it. During the Hollywood television showcase sequence, he shows up as astronaut Gus Grissom, and it's more of a small burst than a full moment. Then he basically vanishes from the story. Back then, Cranston was mostly known for television roles, so really not many people could have imagined how far his career would eventually go later on. Even if the cameo was brief, Tom Hanks seems to have remembered Cranston's work really well. Hanks has always valued dependable performers who still manage to land an impact even when they don't have much screen time, and Cranston did that. No extra noise, just presence. Instead of letting the whole thing fade after production wrapped, Hanks kept him in mind for later chances where someone with actual skill and professionalism would be needed. And yeah, that choice ended up paying off. A few years later, Hanks cast Cranston as astronaut Buzz Aldrin in the HBO miniseries From the Earth to the Moon. It was another chance for them to share the screen, and it kind of proved, again, that even the smallest part can still leave a lasting trace. Looking at it now, Cranston's quick appearance feels like this early peek at an artist who would eventually become one of the most respected actors of his generation. Years after the movie's release, an extended version added scenes that exposed a hidden side of one important character. The next fact reveals a major detail that theater audiences never got to see. 10. The extended cut revealed Mr. White's hidden story. Many fans believe they've seen everything That Thing You Do has to offer, but the 2007 extended edition tells a different story. Released more than a decade after the original film, this version added nearly 40 minutes of extra footage, giving audiences a deeper look at several characters and expanding moments that had been removed from the theatrical release. Surprisingly, the extended edition received little promotion. So many longtime fans never realized it even existed. One of its biggest revelations involved Mr. White, the band's manager, played by Tom Hanks. New scenes explored a more personal side of his life that had been completely absent from the original release. These moments added depth to the character and showed there was much more to him than the calm, professional figure audiences remembered. Rather than changing the overall story, the added material helped explain his personality and relationships in a more meaningful way. Because the extended version was released only for home viewing, countless fans continued watching the theatrical cut without knowing these scenes had ever been filmed. Even today, many people who love the movie are surprised to learn that an expanded version exists, complete with character moments that remained hidden for years. 9. The bass player was intentionally left nameless. Among all the members of the Wonders, you know how it goes. One character kinda stands out for this really odd reason. Ethan Embry's bass player never, not once, gets an official name anywhere in the movie. While the rest of the band members are introduced and then kinda remembered by people watching, he just stays the bass player, like that's his whole deal. There is a moment where Lenny, very much jokingly, calls him Tobias, but that's only a random guess. It's not confirmed, it's not explained. So yeah, the mystery isn't some accident or a script that got left half done. It's clearly a deliberate creative decision. Tom Hanks put this in there, almost like a quiet little remark about the music industry. In a lot of one-hit wonder bands, certain folks become a household name, while others slowly slide into the background, remembered more for the group vibe than for who they actually are. And by never giving the bass player a real name, the film makes it funny, but also sharp, because it shows how easily musicians get missed even when they contribute just as much to the band's success. And it didn't stop at the runtime either. Even official soundtrack notes and the promotional stuff kept avoiding any real name, so fans could keep chasing the mystery that isn't really solvable. After repeated viewings, people are still there scanning for hints that simply aren't there. Honestly, it's one of those funniest hidden bits, because it proves that sometimes what a movie leaves out can stick in your head just as hard as what it actually includes. 8. That Thing You Do was designed to sound like a 1964 hit. Creating the perfect title song was about much more than writing a catchy melody. It had to convince audiences that it truly belonged in 1964 while still being memorable enough for modern listeners. Songwriter Adam Schlesinger carefully studied the sound of the British invasion, paying close attention to the bright harmonies, energetic rhythms, and irresistible hooks that made bands like the Beatles so successful. His goal was to create a song that felt instantly familiar, even though it had never actually existed before. The result was That Thing You Do, a song that evolves throughout the movie. It first appears as a slow ballad before Guy Patterson transforms it into the fast-paced version that launches The Wonders to stardom. As the story progresses, audiences hear several different performances of the song, reflecting the band's rapid rise from local talent contests to national television appearances. Each version marks another step in their journey. What began as a fictional hit soon became a real one. After the movie's release, the song climbed music charts, received widespread radio play, and became one of the soundtrack's biggest attractions. Few movie songs have so perfectly blurred the line between fiction and reality, making the Wonders feel like a genuine band from rock and roll history. 7. Ethan Embry got seriously sick after trying to save an iguana. Not every memorable story from the set of That Thing You Do was really about music or acting somehow. One of the weirdest off-camera moments involved Ethan Embry and an iguana who was called Salvador. During the shoot, the reptile started to feel bad, and Embry decided to step in and help. He was hoping to rescue the animal, so he reportedly tried mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, not realizing there were consequences in a way he couldn't foresee. Not long after that, though, Embry got hit hard and ended up seriously sick with dysentery, so that well-meaning gesture turned into this kind of production tale people still bring up. His condition got so intense that even simple tasks around set became awkward and, honestly, hard. Pretty fast, it became a real obstacle for both the crew and the costume department, because everyone still had to keep things moving and filming on schedule, even with the whole unexpected mess. By the time it was over, the whole incident felt legendary to the people who worked on the movie. Costume designer Colleen Atwood later talked about it with a bit of dry humor, basically showing that big productions can still get filled with odd little moments nobody planned. Audiences remember Embry as the quiet bass player, but a lot of folks behind the scenes never forgot the day an iguana helped create one of the film's most outlandish stories. 6. The movie flopped before becoming a cult classic. When That Thing You Do. Opened in 1996, expectations were high. Tom Hanks was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, and many expected his directorial debut to become an immediate hit. Instead, the film earned less than hoped and disappeared from theaters relatively quickly. Its story changed after the theatrical run. Television broadcasts, VHS releases, and DVDs introduced the movie to a much larger audience. Families enjoyed its warmth, music fans embraced the soundtrack, and positive word of mouth continued to spread. Over time, the film developed a loyal fan base. Anniversary events, cast reunions, and performances of the title song helped keep its popularity alive. What began as a box office disappointment eventually became a beloved 1990s cult classic. Its success proved that a movie does not need a huge opening weekend to leave a lasting impression on audiences. 5. Playtone Records became a real production company. In That Thing You Do, the Wonders sign on top of Playtone Records, a fictional label that was basically made for the movie. Tom Hanks liked that name so much, he kinda tugged it into the real world later on. Like 2 years after the film came out, Hanks and producer Gary Gottsman rolled Playtone out as a real production company. What started as this made-up record label almost casually snowballed into a serious Hollywood studio. Over the years, Playtone went on to make acclaimed films, TV series, documentaries, and historical dramas. People started linking the company with careful, considerate storytelling and productions that looked polished across different kinds of genres. Now, Playtone gets recognized way beyond those pretend roots. Not many names invented for a movie managed to turn into major real-world businesses. So what audiences first spotted as part of the Wonders' whole story turned into a meaningful thread in Hanks's work behind the camera, and, in a way, it turned a small imagined detail into a long-lasting Hollywood legacy. 4. Charlize Theron was discovered after a bank argument. Before becoming one of Hollywood's biggest stars, Charlize Theron's career began with an unexpected confrontation inside a bank. After moving to the United States from South Africa, she tried to cash a check from her home country. When the bank refused to process it, Theron became frustrated and argued with the teller. What seemed like an ordinary disagreement quickly turned into the moment that changed her entire future. Standing nearby was talent manager John Crosby, who happened to witness the exchange. Rather than seeing an angry customer, he noticed someone with confidence, determination, and undeniable screen presence. Impressed by her personality, Crosby introduced himself and handed her his business card, encouraging her to consider acting. That chance encounter opened a door she never expected and launched her into Hollywood almost overnight. Not long afterward, Theron auditioned for That Thing You Do, where Tom Hanks immediately recognized her potential. Although the role was only one step early in her journey, Hanks reportedly believed she was destined for bigger things. His prediction proved remarkably accurate. Just a few years later, Charlize Theron became one of the industry's most respected performers, eventually winning the Academy Award for Best Actress and establishing herself as an international star. 3. Steve Zahn didn't know he was auditioning for Tom Hanks. Steve Zahn almost missed one of the biggest chances of his career because he actually had no clue who was the one making the movie. His manager told him to show up for what sounded like a simple script reading, and somehow avoided saying anything about Tom Hanks being involved. Zahn figured it was just another smallish project, so he said yes, and he didn't expect anything too extraordinary. He walked in with this mindset, like it was going to be some routine get-together, the kind you do 100 times. Then everything changed as soon as he stepped into the room. There was Tom Hanks sitting there, getting ready to cast his first feature as a director. The shock pretty much upped the pressure right away, but Zahn stayed locked in and delivered the performance he had already prepared. His natural pacing, quick wit, and this kind of effortless charisma made people sit up fast, and it turned what he thought was just another audition into one of those career-turning, you-made-it moments. Later on, Hanks talked about how Zahn performed and said he really nailed understanding the character Lenny. His energy, plus that comic delivery, brought the role alive in exactly the way the filmmakers wanted. And without Zahn even meaning to, he ended up walking into one of the most important auditions of his whole career. That strange meeting gave him a role people would remember, and it also introduced audiences to one of the film's funniest, most lovable characters. 2. Sean Penn inspired Tom Hanks to become a director. A single conversation can sometimes change an entire career. For Tom Hanks, that moment happened on Halloween while trick-or-treating with friends, including actor Sean Penn. During their walk, Penn told Hanks that every actor should try directing at least once. Penn had recently directed a film and explained that working behind the camera gave actors a deeper understanding of filmmaking. Directing was not only about choosing camera angles or calling action, it required overseeing the entire production and understanding how every department worked together. Hanks took the advice seriously. While promoting Forrest Gump, he began writing the screenplay for That Thing You Do. The project eventually became his feature film directorial debut. What began as a casual Halloween conversation inspired Hanks to challenge himself and explore a new creative role. Penn's simple advice ultimately helped launch another successful chapter in Hanks's Hollywood career. One final surprise remains, and it wasn't created on a soundstage. Some of the movie's most memorable scenes were filmed inside legendary Hollywood locations that have since disappeared forever, making these moments impossible to recreate today. 1. Famous Hollywood landmarks were used as filming locations, part of what gives That Thing You Do its authentic Hollywood atmosphere is that many scenes were filmed in real locations with remarkable histories. Instead of relying entirely on studio sets, the production used famous landmarks that had already played important roles in the entertainment industry. These locations added a sense of realism that perfectly matched the band's journey from small-town performers to national stars. One of the most significant filming sites was the historic Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Several memorable scenes, including the band's arrival after achieving success and key conversations inside the hotel, were filmed there. The building had welcomed countless celebrities over the decades before closing its doors. Sadly, it was demolished years later, making the movie one of the last major productions to preserve its appearance on film. Thanks for watching. Which behind-the-scenes fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this countdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss more amazing movie facts and hidden Hollywood stories. And if you're ready for even more incredible behind-the-scenes secrets, click the next video on your screen and keep the adventure going.